Hello ladies and gentlemen, what's up? My name is Mercules. I'm here today with Destiny Tracker. It is Wednesday, February the 15th. I'm going to be bringing you a discussion about update 2.5.0.2, aka the sandbox tuning. Now, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. We're going to start off with the heart of the matter, the special ammo changes. So, Bungie has decided to adjust the special ammo economy on all PvP game types, and what they mean by that is, players now start Crucible matches with special ammo, but special ammo is lost upon death. Sidearms are actually not affected by this change, so sidearms, no matter how much ammo they have, you respawn with the exact same amount, just like they used to. To help counteract this, special ammo crates now appear every 60 seconds, and they are shared with allies within 75 meters. That's actually down from 100 meters, but the special ammo timing in Mayhem is completely unchanged. So when we first figured out about this, here's what I wrote about the patch. This is one change I somewhat have a problem with. I'll have to see how exactly this plays out before I can make a final call, and I think overall it could be a great thing as it promotes using a primary and sidearms just became way more useful, but I have some reservations. I think it's going to promote a campy style of play with snipers as it encourages people to stay alive to continue using their special weapon. Now, I actually wrote a little bit more than that, but I just highlighted that part because after playing today with the patch live, I can say that I was definitely correct in feeling worried. Although we no longer have to worry about shotgun rushers sprinting across the map full speed, the only specials I saw today were extremely passive sniper players and aggressive sidearm users. I didn't see a single fusion rifle, I didn't see any shotguns, and basically there's just as little variety in weapons and playstyles as there was before the patch. Now only time will tell how this meta will settle exactly, but at the moment I really do not like the special ammo changes at all. It also seems like good players get the first few kills with the special and then they become nearly impossible to challenge because all the players who have died only have primaries. I'm not exactly sure why they felt the need to make such a drastic change to the economy, but either way I hope that it is modified or revoked very, very soon. Now, moving on to weapons specifically, hand cannons were affected. They basically significantly increased the initial accuracy. It goes back to launch year one values. They reduced the base range from 35 meters to 40 meters. Now, I don't believe that's the accuracy cone itself. I believe that's the damage fall off and aim assist fall off. And it says in the next two bullet points, reduce the aim assist and magnetism at longer distances and reduce the minimum damage after fall off from 50 to 33%. So I haven't gotten to play much or do my own testing with hand cannons, but from what I've seen around Reddit and Twitter, this actually seems to be a marked improvement. Although the damage fall off is much more aggressive, the hand cannons are much more accurate overall and they have a crispy feel that's enjoyable to play with. I'm pretty happy with the way they handled hand cannons, and they've actually showed a rare deft touch to make the weapon play well without making them overpowered. Range still seems to be the king perk for hand cannons, and the mid-impact models still seem to be the best, but I'm not sure the gap is quite so wide as it was in either case prior to this patch. Now, moving on to the next thing, auto rifles. Auto rifles increased their precision damage modifier to 1.3, it was 1.25. The low rate of fire auto rifles got a base damage increase of 2.5, and they all had increased in-air accuracy. Now, unfortunately, this wasn't quite as much of a buff as I was looking for ARs. The mid and high impact models boost their critical damage by 1, which is enough to make them slightly more forgiving, but it does not help them kill any faster. The low impact models barely notice any change at all, which leads to an unfortunate lack of options when it comes to primary weapons outside of hand cannons and pulse rifles. I will say, somewhat surprisingly, that the Genesis chain seems to have benefited quite noticeably from the small boost of damage, and it now actually kills faster than any other AR with an optimal time to kill of 0.83 seconds. I look forward to trying out some more of the weapons, but for now, with the lack of damage fall-off buff, which is what I was really hoping would happen, I'm not sure they're going to find a place in the competitive meta. You just have to spend too much time engaged with the target. You can't go into cover, you can't pop out like you can with a hand cannon or pulse rifle, and really, they just don't kill fast enough outside of their optimal ranges for them to be useful. So moving on from auto rifles, pulse rifles, they reduced the rate of fire for the very high rate of fire pulse rifles by 7.7%. Now let's ignore that percentage for a little bit because the percentage doesn't really work when it comes down to the actual numbers in the game. I was pretty accurate with my pre-patch estimate. The change will increase the optimal time to kill from 0.8 seconds to 0.87 seconds, which is still competitive, but it's no longer the best in class. The bigger change is actually going to be the body shot time to kill. It's going to plummet from 1.33 seconds to 1.47 seconds, which drastically reduces the forgiveness of the weapon. With only one frame and burst delay separating the class from its Hawksaw brethren, I'd kind of be hard-pressed to recommend these weapons as top tier at this point. The reason I say this is because not only was their rate of fire decreased, but the Clever Dragon and Grasp of Malak had their magazine sizes reduced by 6 apiece, which brings them down to 24 and 27. It's very, very low. And high caliber rounds no longer has as much of an effect. And flinch in general no longer has as much of an effect on pulse rifles. So basically the high rate of fire, low impact pulse rifles are no longer very, very good. Some other pulse rifles actually got a buff though, and it was the low rate of fire pulse rifles. They had an increased rate of fire, and it says by 5.3%, but again, let's forget about the percentage here. I'm not really sure where they got their percentages from, but the Parthian shot and spare change actually got a bigger boost than I was estimating. It shaved 2 frames off the burst delay. That brings the optimal time to kill down to a blazing fast 0.67 seconds, 2/3 of a second, when you land your 2 bursts perfectly, and no other legendary primer will be able to compete at all. Unfortunately, in practice, it's still very hard to land 2 bursts perfectly. Thankfully, the buff also applies to the body shot time to kill, which has dropped to a very low 1.20 seconds. It's very, very good for a pulse rifle. These guns in the right hands might actually become some of the most powerful weapons on medium to large maps, and I'm really looking forward to. That's what I've been spending most of my time playing with today. Just like with auto rifles and with scout rifles, increased in-air accuracy is something that came into effect. It doesn't seem like much in my experience playing with them today. It didn't seem like a huge boost. They just seem like a little tiny bit more accurate, so I don't think that's a game changer. Moving on from primaries, let's go to shotguns. Shotguns got a pretty huge blanket nerf. They no longer deal precision damage, but the Chaperone, Universal Remote, and Lord of Wolves are not affected by that. Although the Universal Remote does only deal precision damage when it's ADS. Shotguns now have significantly less magnetism when fired from the hip. They have significantly less in-air accuracy, but they no longer have a movement penalty, and for PvE, they actually deal 20% more damage, which is pretty great. Rangefinder on shotguns now actually increases the ADS time, means it makes it slower by 25%. They reduce Universal Remote's magazine size from 5 to 3, and Universal Remote now takes longer to reload. In practice, I like the changes that were made to shotguns because it definitely promotes a defensive playstyle, but it's unfortunate that they were made across the board, and in conjunction with special ammo changes, I think they went overboard. Now, instead of just having the 2 worst offenders seeing less playing time, it would appear that all shotguns have been relegated to afterthoughts. So, with the shotguns, it was good intentions, but in my opinion, poor implementation. Now, in terms of exotics, they really only changed a couple of other exotics. Young Wolf's Howl now only takes 5 ammo instead of 10 to do Howling Flames, and I'm pretty safe to say that I think nobody cares about that. But Truth, they nerfed Truth's magazine size down from 3 to 1, which means that now with a pair of heavy or rocket launcher boots, it can only pick up 2 rockets instead of 3. This is a huge nerf to me. It is completely uncalled for. I don't know who was complaining about Truth. I am not happy with this at all. I think that was a terrible, terrible nerf. Moving on from weapons to the classes. In general, they reduced the health of Guardians with armor values over 10. I haven't done any specific testing on this, so I don't know the numbers for sure. They also increased the damage of flux grenades, magnetic grenades, and shoulder charge to make sure that they are effective across all armor values. That means people who were over 10 before may have been able to survive those. Now they no longer can. Like I said, I like these changes in theory, but I haven't had time to check them myself, so we'll get back to those later. Blink, for some reason, now disables your radar and HUD for a short time after activation. I have no idea why they did this. It is one of the stupidest nerfs to me. Blink was already hardly ever used by anyone. Why would you put another knock on it? I mean, at this point, you're basically just guaranteeing that no one is ever going to use Blink, and I don't know why they want it to be like that. For Hunters, the throwing knife now deals solar damage. That's great for PvE, but they also nerfed Hungering Blade on the Blade Dancer. Instead of it immediately starting health and shield regeneration, it immediately starts health regen and gives you 40 flat health per kill. This can overlap into shield, but it does not start the shields regenerating too. Now, originally, the community thought this was a horrible, horrible nerf, and I could kind of see it, but I don't think it's as bad as people thought it was, and the main reason is because of the way the special ammo economy is working right now. Although I think they probably could have gone without nerfing Hungering Blade, without special ammo, it is really, really hard to kill roaming supers. That's one thing I've noticed for sure today, is that roaming supers are nearly invincible if no one has special ammo to shut them down. So Blade Dancer would have been no exception to that if Hungering Blade hadn't been changed at least a bit. That being said, I maybe could have left it alone if they hadn't also accidentally, so they say, I'm putting that in air quotations, accidentally changed all the other health regenerating perks as well. So originally they changed just Hungering Blade, or at least that's what they told us. And some people complained. They said, well, why does Cauterize not get a nerf? Why does Lifesteal not get a nerf? Well, accidentally, inadvertently, the Hungering Blade changes were applied to basically every other perk in the game that regens health. Transfusion, Cauterize, Lifesteal, Red Death's perk, Suros' perk, No Backup Plans, Ward of Dawn, the Ram, Apotheosis Veil, and Embrace the Void all have now received the exact same nerf. So, again, I can see where the community would be furious on this, but I'm going to say because of the special ammo changes, at least until the meta stabilizes, I don't know if this is going to be as big of a deal as people think. I think it might prevent some supers and some players from being basically invincible when they immediately regen health after a kill or after a hit. I don't necessarily think they're good. I could have seen leaving them alone, but because of the way they changed special ammo, I can see it not being as bad as the community thinks. But that's something I'm going to have to wait more time before I can, give a full opinion on it. Moving back up to the Blade Dancer, the quick draw perk no longer readies your weapons instantly, but instead grants a large increase of the weapon handling speed. What that means is your weapon's handling stat actually matters now. Basically, before, no matter what your weapon was, it would max out the handling stat, and at this point in time, it no longer does that. It just provides a nice bonus to it. So a low handling weapon is going to be worse than a high handling weapon. They did the same thing to the Ophidian aspects as well for Warlocks. Moving on, I don't really know why they did this change. I don't particularly think it was necessary. It seems like they just threw it in there, but whatever. They feel like they need to do it. I disagree with it. Oh well. Staying with Warlocks, the Stormcaller's Thunderstrike melee range has been reduced to be consistent with other Warlock subclasses. I personally would have messed with Amplitude, not the base range of Thunderstrike, but I think we can all agree that Thunderstrike had a little bit too much reach, even though that was the only boost that the melee gave, which is again why I would have messed with Amplitude. Landfall now reduces the total time in Storm Trance. I would have preferred just a flat decrease to Storm Trance's duration rather than a perk-based one, especially because basically no one uses Landfall. They're all using Ionic Blink. So I don't necessarily agree with that nerf, but whatever. It's whatever Bungie wants to do. Now, moving on to Titan. Juggernaut is disabled after being in the air for a short time. It appears to be a little over a second and cannot be activated while midair. Honestly, I think with the improvements to ARs and the nerfs to shotguns, Juggernaut probably would have just fallen back into line on its own. But as far as it goes, this is probably a solid change. Similar to hand cannon changes, it actually seems like this was nuanced and not destructive to a playstyle, so I like this change. There's a couple other general changes. Outbreak Prime no longer triggers the corruption spreads by shooting a Ward of Dawn. I don't think that's really that big of a deal. Shinobu's Vow no longer adds an additional secret skip grenades. I'm sorry for Blade Dancers, you guys are taking another hit, but this one actually isn't that bad. They removed the intrinsic perk knee pads and Icarus on some talent grids. That is probably good. I don't even know specifically where that was or where they were hidden. But if anyone was getting free perks, then yeah, you definitely need to remove that. They also fixed an issue where high caliber rounds were not functioning properly on hand cannons, scout rifles, machine guns, and sniper rifles, so hooray for that. And that is basically it for this patch. I hope you guys have enjoyed my breakdown. Remember to like, favorite, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.